Let me get the stream up. So, gentlemen, part 2, right? In my last video,
Yes, sir.
Crazy.
bro,
Absolutely insane.
it's like so rare that you like you hear like, oh yeah, part 2 is gonna be a flashback, or whatever, a flashback arc, or start with that, and you're like, oh, that would be so gangster if it does do that, but I doubt it. And then when we see that last chapter, oh,
Yeah, I generally didn't expect it to go as a flashback, but I will say I think it's like the best possible move that Hokuzono could have made. Just because I personally was worried when I saw that there was no break in between the end of part 1. I was like, there's got to be some room to breathe. There's no way that like I can just have part 1 end title card and then just go directly into like time skip and like it's like a 25-year-old Chihiro next week. It just would not feel right. Like I feel like after like an end like that, we really needed time to breathe, and I feel like this was the best possible way to do so, because not only like you said, like it's very rare that we get like a full flashback arc, but I think we have seen it be done so many times in prior shonen, like the big 3, where sometimes those are like the most beloved arcs. And I feel like after a certain other series where like we got robbed, robbed is a very loaded word, I should say, but like we got robbed of a flashback arc that I think was very necessary. So I think we kind of braced ourselves for that we might not get what we want, but this time it's just so pleasant and refreshing to finally get something that we actually wanted.
big facts, Dice. How you feeling coming out of last chapter?
Yeah, I think refreshing is the right word, because I definitely feel that. Like, just seeing like immediately, like when we see young Shiva, you just kind of like know what's going on, and then right, like when we actually get the Seite War arc title card, and you see young Kunishige, it just like it hits because Tiberius, like you said, like very rare does, like when you're reading a story, you say like whether it's like a flashback or something else, you think like, man, it would be like super cool if this happened, or if we jump to like this kind of like side story or this origin story of X character or whatever. And the Seite War specifically is something that like everybody's just been yearning for and asking for. And so like seeing it actually happen it just hits differently. And I think the question now is like, how much time are we actually going to spend here? Like, how long is this flashback going to be? Is it going to be like a, on the shorter side, just like a couple of chapters, no more than like 20? Or are we going to be here for like a good minute, and like Kagurabachi as a whole, like the Seite War will actually be a great chunk of all of Kagurabachi? Like, that's what I'm wondering, at least right now.
Yeah, I mean, I seen Alon's posted a tweet, and I think someone commented on one of his videos that they want the flashback arc to go for like 60 to 100 chapters.
Oh,
I'm like,
God.
good goddamn, like, sheesh. Like, I'm thinking 20, like 25 at most is what I was thinking, like in between that 15 to 25 range. How long do you think, Noop, or what's your guesstimate?
I mean, I could see it going both ways, right? Because I think with the fact that this is like the very big meat of the origin of everything that we have going on in part 1, and like I said it in a chapter review that I did on my channel, where I think that the reason why we're starting from like Shiba's perspective is because it's probably Shiba, like now that Chihiro knows that Akamura is his uncle, Shiba's probably basically filling Chihiro in on everything now. At this point, I feel like he has to lay everything out to him, so that we may basically just get the most important critical moments of everything that's going on from Shiba's perspective. At least that's my theory. So like I think it could go like you said, like I think it could be 10 20 chapters just like a very tight knit flashback arc where it hits all of the points that it needs to. Or I feel like it really could go for a decent 40 to 50 chapters, just because there's so much potential in the story. I'm kind of holding back my expectations because I don't want to get, you know what I mean, like too attached to any one thing. Because honestly, I think either way, whatever Hokuzono does, he'll do a really good job with it.
Yeah, like King Slash says, it'll be 30 chapters max. People getting their hopes too high, and I definitely do worry about their, because kind of like as you talked about, Noop, there's so much potential for the war, and there's like so many different installments during the war that we kind of want to see. You know, like we want to see the crafting of the blades, obviously. We want to see the coming, like all the warriors coming together to like form this like the war effort, you know, and you know, kind of basically like how these connections start to like how people start to like get to know each other, like how Itsuo Shirakai start you know, fighting with the Masaka brothers, for instance. You know, there's so many things that we can like potentially see, and that doesn't even include the actual like fights during the war. You know, then it comes down to like, do we think that there's a possibility where we get more characterization on like Subaru, the old head, you know, sushi chef kind of guy, and he might get killed really early on when we cut back to present time because we got his characterization in the war or something. Like they said, there's just so much potential, you know, and or the opposite could be true where, you know, we could just see Shiba kind of make these connections with you know, the Dataneki with Kunishige, how since he's the Soga clan guardian, which was crazy. How does he get Kunishige and them like cool with each other? Like, how do all these things start to form? And then once we get that, we might cut to the malediction, or we might just cut to like, you know, that moment when Soga sees, you know, presumably Chihiro as a baby. You know, I don't know, like, there's just so many different things. I mean, if there's one thing though, I guess it's you know, I guess I want to ask, or Dice, I'll ask you, do you think that we're gonna stay with Shiba this the whole time through the flashback, or you think it'll kind of like just loosely start to look at, you know, Kunishige and like more so follow Kunishige? Because if Shiba is the one that's like kind of, you know, we're like seeing it as he's telling Chihiro everything, then I don't know, I can see it going either way really, or just kind of cutting around.
Bro, I kid you not, that was literally what I was about to ask you guys. Like, I swear.
Can you get your own questions, bro?
I wasn't even ready like to answer myself, but I think it's mainly gonna be from the POV of Shiba, Kunishige, and like at most Azami, just because they're like the trio that, you know, from that generation that we really, I think, would say we're like the most attached to.
Man, give me Ibiki Masaka.
Well, through them, I think is that like now with Shiba, especially being the Soga card, like the Soga clan's guardian, I think through them we're gonna be able to see a lot of the connections through the Enchanted Blade Bearers. And like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if you know, one like Subaru is fleshed out in that flashback, and then like by the time we cut back to present day, Kaguri's already wielding that blade.
Oh yeah, he's be a monster with the EB too. That dude he's probably been like taking baths with it and taking it out on dates. He's like, Sojo did say I should probably have a picnic with it.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah. I don't know, is there one, like, I guess I'll let you, you know, you kind of touched on it a little bit as well, but I'll let you finish answering that question. I mean, to cut you off, but I also want to get your opinion if there's like one specific character that you would like to kind of see in this war arc.
Well, so to answer your question, I definitely want to see like old Akamura. I think he's the character that I'm most interested in, just because something that I've kind of been wondering this entire time is like, everyone is always like, oh, the Sword Saint changed, you know, the war changed him, it turned him into a different person. And I'm sitting here and I've always been wondering if like it's actually the exact opposite. If like Akamura was always this fucking crazy, and it's just at the time of war, at the time that everything was going on, everything made sense. And it's just everyone else by the end of it ended up, you know, gaining some kind of heart or feelings in their own ways, feeling like, you know, gaining their own kind of empathy for the Islanders. Because you even see like a disconnect between these two people in this chapter, like between Shiba and the random mercenary sorcerer. He's like, oh, you know, they were attacking us, they're assassins, they're doing this. And then Shiba's like, well, actually, they're not even really fighting us like to the death. They're really just trying to divert us and keep us away from the Daitenseki realistically. So it's like you already see how like two different people like can like have that perspective. So I'm interested to see like Akamura specifically, and then also like as far as like perspectives are like where I think the flashback is gonna go. Like I said, yeah, I think Shiba being like the point of view makes the most sense if we're gonna get like a very shorter, tighter version of everything, because at the very least that we know for a fact that keeps the story tightened to Shiba's perspective. We're only gonna learn the things that Shiba, that Shiba was present for. But also at the same time, it would also be really cool to get like Samura, to get like Aruha. You mentioned like getting kind of characterization for the other enchanted blade wielders. God forbid, we actually time skip and they're already dead, or they don't stick around for very long. I think that's a really good idea for one. But like, I'm wondering if like I guess that is the question: how long is this gonna go? Because like, are we going to get to see the enchanted blade wielders actually fight in the Seitei War? Are we going to get characterization for the islanders? Like, are there going to be like quote unquote villains that like the enchanted blade wielders are like we're going to see fight? Like you said, like I think the big like question, which is like fun to think about and imagine, which can, like we talked about before, also lead to like people getting their hopes up, is like how much are we going to see? Like, how dynamic is this war going to be?
Yeah, and like how y'all you mentioned like Shiba. One good thing about having Shiba is the our perspective through the thing, or we follow him, is he has like he's a teleporter. So it's like he's the best character you would want to follow in a scenario like that, and he's also the Soga
He can
clan
be in
guardian.
so many places at once.
Yeah, so he's gonna prioritize like being by Soga's side to a certain degree, and is like that when like Soga, whatever, the inciting moment that makes him like change, is that going to be the thing that like makes Shiba just like detach himself completely from Soga? Is there going to be like, is it going to be contentious? They're like that, how their dynamic, Soga and Shiba, isn't a dynamic I really thought much on up until now. And I don't think anyone really like, we all just assumed that that's Kunishige's right-hand man, as they said early on. And we want to see what that relationship looks like. And, but now we got to look at it as like, what does Shiba and Shiba's relationship with Soga looks like? Because Soga, even though he is younger, like he is like, I mean, that's one of them dudes you just know not to like fuck with. You know what I mean? Like he might be smaller than you, younger than you, but he has that aura about him. Like he don't really, he might be, show respect, but it's just like, man, like that dude just has that immense weight to his aura. So I would like to see how Shiba's kind of like immature, kind of like energy pairs with Soga. So I mean, I think Shiba would be like real cool to kind of like follow him and him teleporting around. There's a lot that can happen. I think like just the runtime of the flashback, like y'all brought up.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, like the more, and like no upset, like like we all agree, like it's all about tempering expectations, right? But at the same time, we look at previous arcs, and I don't think like we've gotten this sort of presentation really, and like anticipation for a particular, and obviously like it's the first time we're really cutting back in this way, so like there's obviously no way to anticipate something that you don't know what's coming. But what I'm trying to say is like, considering how much there is to the war, how many questions there are, how many like characters, for example like Azami, that you can probably flesh out more in an arc like this compared to what's going on in present day, I really start to think that like it almost has to be like at least 20 to 25 chapters at the very least, and that would, I feel like, be like blitzing through a lot of like a lot of things
cutting
in
the
story.
fat. Yeah, that's like trimming the fat off.
And I'm kind of stuttering at the same time because I know Kagurabachi goes at a breakneck pace, and just like look how much was covered in this one chapter alone. So like at the same time, it is, I can also see like Hokuzono just kind of steamrolling through through all these questions and everything that we're really looking forward to. And at the same time, you could always later on in present day, you could always still cut back to things you didn't necessarily cover in this time because it wasn't, a pacing wise or in terms of like plot, it wasn't proper to cover a certain reveal and this particular moment. But like I brought this up, I think in previous Hishaku Hideout episodes or like on stream, the when it comes to the enchanted blades, the conceptual life, that's something that we could really only see from Kunishige's POV if we're going to get answers in terms of what is it about the Dataneki and the life and the dark power and like again just all these questions aside from character origins and things like the Soga clan. There's so much ground to cover, and I just don't know what Hokazono is going to really go into and what he's going to kind of like keep close to his chest because like I said, it's more appropriate to reveal later down the line.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to say real quick was certain characters like I make like there's a meme of Ibiki Misaka like I'm if he only has one fan left it's me type thing, but the only chance for us to really get any kind of like anything that's like worth seeing on panel is like right now for his character, and I don't expect a lot, but I do hope that's one character that like is minor in the story that I want to see. Well, I say minor in the sense he ain't been around, but holds an important title. That's one, but we just can't know exactly what Hokazono plans to do with this.
Yeah.
I wanted to see the conversation just to kind of get into like where we think next chapter is actually going to start. I don't know if you have any opinions or theories of where you think we're going to go from here on.
I think it's, to me, for one, I just want to say before I get into it, I absolutely loved that part when ended with Chihiro donning, the blacksmith attire and like getting started on his own enchanted blade. And then when we see his dad in the flashback, that's exactly what he's doing. I thought that was super sick of a parallel. But that's exactly where I think it's going to go. I think we're going to see Shiba meet up with Kunishige. I think because at least in my opinion, we'll most likely be following Shiba's perspective. It probably makes the story pretty linear. But again, if we do get other perspectives and we start from a different perspective, we may start from, Akamura's perspective. We may start from Azami's perspective and see what he's up to and see a little bit of the other side. I think right now, specifically, like the war hasn't exactly started. Shokoku has just, begun. So we may, I think right now, the biggest focus is going to be the creation of the enchanted blades and what that was like going into it. And just we've part one focused so much on all of the different philosophies and everyone's different interpretations and takes and ideas of what Kunishige's purpose was when designing the enchanted blades. And I think we're finally going to be able to see like what his actual, ideals and everything like that were, because we can speculate. We know what he said to Chihiro after he matured, after he was able to have hindsight go into everything, but I'm really curious to know like what he was going into, because everyone has been memeing from the very beginning when the Shinichi was first revealed, which was what the hell could have possibly prompted you to devise a weapon of this mass destruction, right? Like obviously we know that the sword wielder's true realm massively, influences, how far that enchanted blade will go. So there is that, but at this, you get what I'm mostly saying. Like, what headspace was he in when he was making that? And according to the dude that Shiba was talking to, that guy barely answers his calls. He's a low-level weapons dealer. He's very chill, probably by just doing what he needs to do to survive right now. What does Shiba do, or what does anyone else do to inspire him to actually go that far?
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is like seeing a younger Kunishige's perspective, and like that'll really give us a better grasp that I think we've been like as a fandom kind of wishing for without being as like too vocal about it, because some people just like you said, the memes of like him being Oppenheimer, like what the hell could have made him do that, or whatever it may be. But now like we're for sure gonna get like, you know, his starting point, at least in terms of like the you know, the whole point of the story, the whole narrative of the story. We don't need his childhood really. We just need to, you know where his mind's at right now. That'll be enough. And then seeing like what kind of man he was, and the fact of him, you know, raising Chihiro into being like such a good person. You know, yeah, he is doing, you know, he says he's going to hell, but like, you know, he's a tragic hero really. And I mean, he may not be going about certain things the best way, but like, I mean it's also a shonen story. I did want to say, go back real quick. We talked about like 20 chapters for the flashback. I want to just to give y'all like to frame some perspective. Chapter 90 to 112, 92 to 112, that's 20 chapters, and that's from the beginning of the 2v2 with Uraha and Natsuki versus Yura and Hokuto to obviously the end of the part 1. And so, you know, there was a lot of stuff that happened in that time. You know, like he said, like Dice mentioned, the breakneck speed, the pacing of Kagurabachi. Appreciate you, Will. I made that today. But you know, we got the barrier vessel, Ikuto's return. You know, there's a bunch of little small moments. Yura's thing with you know, getting the Magatsumi, and Azami's fight. Like, we have a lot of things that we can kind of pull from out of those 20 chapters. So if you're saying we're going to get 20 chapters just of like war, where the understanding is it's, you know, like in a similar like segmented battles across a large area instead of like not Kabanai HQ, I'm just wondering how long does, you know, like I said, obviously it always comes back to how long what does Hokuzono have planned. But, you know, I just want to put some like perspective on what 20 chapters looks like in Kagurabachi, you know. Dice, I want to actually let you finish where Noab left off, where you think next chapter is going to go.
Ooh, well, I think we'll definitely see we'll see Shiba meet up with Kunishige, and I think we'll see Azami potentially as well.
Yeah, because we know they were all cool. Yeah. You know, they were all homies, and like, where's Soga fit into that? You know, he don't really seem like the guy you want to invite to a smoke sesh. You know what I mean?
Nah, see, it's so funny you say that, because like, so not to get on my soapbox for a little bit, but like one thing that I absolutely like really loved about the introduction of Soga is just how like ridiculous he truly was, right? Like when like Yora's like, oh, Sword Saint, like I've come to meet you, and he's like he's doing stretches, he's like, hey, how's the weather out there, what's going on? And like he's like, oh, Samura, you heal your eyes, you look pretty sick, man. Like it's just like he is like a fucking, you know, I'm sorry for cursing, he is like a
bro, really?
Like he is like a genocidal maniac, but you can tell he's got like that zany character about him. Like when he's like describing that he bought Chihiro his bib, he's like, I remember you when you were this big. And in that moment I was like, you know what, I can kind of understand it. Like where this guy was supposedly supposed to be, you know, Kunishige Rokuhira's best friend, and we know what kind of a goofball like he was supposed to be, even just hanging out with him for a couple chapters. Now, I've always thought it's interesting too, going off of that point, where like I can see where they do kind of somewhat connect. He's definitely like that, like you said, like that dark dude who can kind of like, you know, scare the hose. Like at the blunt session, you know what I mean? Like he's like
Dashboard Confessional.
Yo, like he, you know what I mean? Like you invite him around, but you're kind of like, dog, let's come on, homie. You're like, chill out, man. Yeah,
you don't need to
chill,
listen to
dude.
My Chemical Romance, bro. Come on.
Like, yeah, exactly. He jacks the aux and completely just kills the vibe. Starts playing some heavy metal, and it's like, dude, this is not the vibe right now.
Yeah, bro, we're going
like,
out.
This just isn't it.
Yeah, I don't want to listen to Lil Peep right now, dude.
Yeah, dude, exactly. But like, also at the same time, like I've always thought it was interesting that when I don't remember if it's Shiba or Azami, when like they're thinking about like when they used to be younger. I've always thought it was interesting that Akamura is supposed to be, you know, Rokuhira's best friend, but when Shiba had that flashback, Akamura is nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
You could obviously see that, like, oh, like Hokuzono didn't want to give it away, at that moment, but also at the same time, I'm like that. I feel like he's a better writer than that. You know what I mean? Like he wouldn't just leave a character out of a flashback just because he doesn't want to reveal the secret yet. Like,
Yeah, it
you
could
know
be
what I mean?
like
I trust
duty.
him more than that.
Because we saw Samura have that like run in with him, with Akamura when even though he was still young, and that that was right before the war. Had to be a little bit before the war, and he has this like extreme sense of duty at 17 years old. So it's like there's always like Hokuzona's I think left himself enough room to kind of do a lot with a little when it comes to Soga, but I think the big thing is like where's that change happen that Samura talked about? Where does that's like the big heavy thing. I think if he can land that plane, I think Hokuzono has shown he knows how to execute villain conclusions. So as I think he just needs to land this plane like what turned him. If he can do that, I think we're pretty much golden going forward.
Real quick, getting back into like the chapter itself, like the fact that like Shiba is like supposedly like the Soga clan's guardian, but also at the same time the mercenary did mention that like you're not even a sorcerer, you're basically just the government's lapdog. I would love to pose the question like to both of you guys, I guess, is do we think like this, like you just said, this sense of duty, this extreme like sense of justice and righteousness, where he's like, I am right, and like I don't even care if you don't agree with me, like I'm gonna think what I think, and this is just what I need to do. I'm wondering if Shiba is like a Soga clan's guardian, I wonder if like Akamura Soga was like a noble family, or like a noble, like a very high up, like the son of like a like high level politician or something like that, where like he was almost raised into it, and that's where like this sense of duty came from. And this is what I kind of mean too when I say like I wonder if Akamura didn't really change. It's just that no one really saw what he was capable of until it was too late. Where like I'm reminded so much of like Shugen, Tiberius, like when I think of Akamura, where like he can, like, it's all out of justice, it's all out of his idea of a good nature, but he's just doing it because that's at the very beginning he was saving children, and Samura was able to be like, oh, this guy's so great, that's perfect. But then the moment that they gave him everything he needed to make a decision, his first decision was, all right, let's fucking kill everyone. And everyone was like, whoa, hold on, wait, what? Whoa. Oh, but I'm curious to hear like what do you guys think? Was that like I'm very interested in that, like, government lapdog, but he's also the Soga clan's guardian. Like, I'm curious if that's like an important thing and give us a clue as to Akamura's like nature growing up.
Yeah, I don't think he was like twisting heads off of pigeons or anything like that. But I do kind of wonder if there was more like drowning in his sense of. See, I don't know, because like I'm conflicted when it comes to Soga, to be honest. Like I
think a lot of it.
Go ahead, Dice.
Yeah, I just think I was gonna say I think a lot of it we're probably gonna see explored through the Soga clan. Especially now that it was like mentioned, with Shiba, and just like in the first chapter of this arc, I think the Soga clan is gonna be pretty big, or like key to like a lot of Akamura's characterization, because his ways, like the customs of the clan, and if that is explored, is gonna tell us everything about who he is as a character, and I really wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, if that's how we see that explored. I was gonna say, like, we saw how Kunishige was characterized in this most recent chapter. We know that Azami, he liked to scrap. We know the type of person that Shiba is, even though, like, yeah, he is kind of described as a government lapdog. I can't help but like think that these guys were, and obviously it's a lot of it is the age, right? But that, like, these guys were like really about it in that time, and kind of like what you said, Noop, like with Soga being part of the clan, like people just like really didn't know to what degree, and I think once because I think the relationship with Kunishige comes afterwards, and that's like why we didn't see them in the flashback. I think we're gonna see Shiba likely present, present each other. Um, and so yeah, I think that we're gonna see that explored through the angle of the Soga clan, and we're gonna see like the dynamics in that friend group, how it also has a lot to do with like who they were and how they behaved during that time, and the regrets that they have later on, like why Shiba ends up leaving the Kamunabi, why Kunishige is as remorseful as he was. And it's kind of like striking, and it makes complete sense that Soga's really the only one who like still has that conviction, like who never went back, who has no regrets, who would do it all over again, who wants to do it again.
Oh, geez.
So
one thing,
yeah.
As you talk about like the Soga clan, to be honest, I can almost see what's up, Smooch on your cooch. The one thing I can kind of see Hokuzono is not showing, almost like the Soga clan being kind of like the Gojo clan to some degree, not as extreme as like we only see Gojo. I do think it'll paint a picture of is like, so the nature versus nurture kind of argument, I guess, for Soga, but I do think like his like upbringing is going to play a part into like why he has this like strong sense of justice. It might have not been, kind of like what he wanted per se, but we've already gotten the introduction of like, obviously we know how like clan relations can be in the toxic cycle of family dynamic, of the clan dynamic within the family, with like the Sazanami, and that could just be Hokuzono putting his foot in the door to like really bust open like those clans, just how like tainted they really are. Like the Sazanami could just have been like the start, which sounds crazy, but one thing I do want to bring up, and we talk about like Azami, Samura, Kunishige were all cool. Man, this dude, I'm pretty sure it was Kunishige. He was like manginaing or some shit in the flashback, and they were like joked out. Like, I can't imagine, like they front wedgie. I can't imagine Soga like thinking that shit's funny though. Like, but I ain't gonna lie though. Now I would like to see him in that moment.
Well, that's
he
funny
was the one that he was on the other side of the camera. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, he took the picture. That's a good point.
I just like the headcanon I kind of have, and we'll find out hopefully soon enough. But is that like, considering Tiberius, what you just said of like Soga likely coming up in this like really tough environment that is kind of like
traditional.
That traditional kind of upbringing within those kind of clans. If like I could see Shiba, again, if he was the connection to Kunishige, I could see like that being like the only time that Soga was really able to like let loose and be himself and be that person that like Noop talked about, that we saw like him talking to Chihiro, and he's like somewhat of a personable, like he's actually like, kind of,
hey Kunishige, do that front wedgie again. It's just he's
charismatic, and so like I could see like a situation of like him really like that's where he found that connection, right? Like in those relationships with Shiba and then Kunishige, and that's how he eventually became Kunishige's most trusted ally. That's really what we have yet to see.
Hey, that's just my degenerate friend, Mom. You don't understand.
Yeah. Being normal. Yeah, like what Baldi says, exactly.
What I wanted to and I'll get your opinion on this. So like now that we know like this this third island, Hiroshima, I think that's the name of it. Like it started like having the Dataneki ore on it. Now we don't know exactly what's all behind that. Like was it, we know Shikoku, there was like an earthquake. Was that like Shikoku kind of influencing the creation of Dataneki on that? Like, because I had a theory that they basically sustained their way of living through Dataneki, and there might have been an upcoming shortage, or starting to run out, and they were getting worried, so they had to kind of cultivate it some other way. And well, so like I'm guessing the kind of, I guess, easiest jump to logic, the reason why Shikoku did show up on the shores of Japan, which actually started the war, which I think we'll eventually get there in a couple chapters. I mean, would you agree that the thing that like incited that was them to taking the Daitanseki from that Shima Island?
Oh, 110%. I think even from the very beginning, it's very clear. You can tell that we overstepped our boundaries to a heightened degree. There is a force field around the original Shikoku Island, and it's stated that like that vein of ore of the Daitanseki only appeared after the massive earthquake of Shikoku appearing, or just a convenient earthquake nearby. So I think they're definitely connected in some way, shape, or form. I'm curious. I think the mystery really does lie with Daitanseki in general. Like, as you mentioned, like, is this a society of people that have like, lived off of Daitanseki, or like, are they trying to keep the Japanese people away from the Daitanseki, for a specific reason? I think we need to learn why Shikoku appeared out of nowhere in the first place. Like, what happened? Was it like a society that had a natural disaster and they had to leave, or like were they actually, as the one guy theorizes, living underwater, like some kind of Atlantean, society? I know, like in Atlantis, they have like it's like in the Legend of Atlantis. Not there's we don't know if it could be
the animated cartoon movie.
No,
Milo Thatch,
like,
that's my homie though.
There's like a material supposedly that they had that was called, I think it's called orichalcum or something like that. And it's like a very like unique material that they had that they built their city off of, that was supposedly like second only to like gold. I think it was like a different kind of like material that I don't know if it actually exists or like it's just legendary or whatever. But it's interesting, like if it is like the Atlantean route, like there is kind of like background to that. But I don't want to over speculate.
And I was thinking about like the whole, because I was so against like, oh, there's no way they came from like the bottom of the ocean. They came from underneath. But then I was thinking about it. So that barrier that they have that's like stopping them from like going to Shikoku, that could, it's almost kind of like a simple domain, if you will, where they have like the function to they kind of like block off, basically like hide their existence in a sense. And so they were there the whole time, but you just couldn't see them. Or it could just be that they actually did come from underwater, and that barrier actually protected them from the actual water, kind of like gave them a society under kind of like Atlantis, a whole society underneath water. So it's I do want to see, because like we're also taking the word of David Schwimmer, the sorcerer, like this dude was just chatting shit. Like,
yeah, exactly. I think it's like I said, like Shiba kind of even debunks what this guy even says. Like that's why I think you're so right. Where it's like, I think like I say we, like I live in Japan. I think they are the ones that are instigating for sure, without a doubt. And they're just assuming the worst, as this mercenary does. He goes, oh, assassins, and Shiba's like, no, they just do diversionary tactics mostly. If they took off your arm, probably because you were testing them, I would imagine.
Yeah, like you're obviously not planning to, like, one, they don't want you fucking with it to begin with. Two, you're over here like, you're definitely not like someone that should be there to begin with. Like, not, there's an argument to be had where if they did influence that Hiroshima Island to start being able to be mined for Daitanseki is one thing. There is like a moral argument to be had, I guess, but I don't know how much we're gonna get of like seeing Shikoku. Like, I don't think we're gonna get like some Gabby from Attack on Titan type arc where we follow one of them, because we know what happens to the island. So I don't think Hokuzono's objective is to like make us like have us grow for one of these characters, and unless he's, I don't know, that would be insane to think about, but I can't see Kagurabachi going that route. But there has to be some exchanging of like ideals or motivations, You know, I mean, we know they sat down for the
Mhm.
treaty. I do hope we see that conversation, and maybe that's where we get it. Dice,
Yeah,
is
no,
there?
100%.
My bad.
Yeah,
I'll let Dice what he thinks about that whole, you know,
Nah,
characterization on like you think there's gonna be like a named Shikoku character, for instance.
I don't know about that, right? But you know, we know that there's the royal family as well, and we talked about this, Tiberius. Like the Shikoku so far has been painted like it's either been like savages or assassins, you know, and I would expect there to be like some sort of, you know, deeper characterization than that, because we saw the innocents that were killed when Soga did his thing. So I don't know about like a named character that will follow, but I do expect to see some sort of you know, layered writing in terms of it's clearly not the way they've been presented so far. And I was gonna say this earlier, but I think this arc is gonna tell us a lot about like the how layered Kagurabachi is going to be as a whole, because when you're talking about war, there's just really so much you can say, and Kagurabachi has still kind of like treaded that line where like you could see the war politics, you could see like a lot of stuff that is kind of like very relevant even today, and there is still that question of how deep, how far is Hokuzono gonna like go into that. And like you've said, Tiberius, this is a shonen, it's a weekly shonen, there's a very clear demographic here, and so like tempering expectations, right? I don't think we're gonna see, like you said, a Gabi or even like that sort of complexity that we got in AOT. But yeah, there is that question still, right? And how Hokuzono paints the Islanders is gonna tell us a lot.
I'm hoping we get like a general from Shikoku that has like a Dataneki grill and comes
Dude, yeah,
out
the
like
warlords, the Shikoku
like some
warlords.
badass like
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Well, what's somebody like some Hagen that from Trojan type dude? What's his name?
which
The
one
one
the
who,
dragon the wait you
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
Iwato the Iwato or Awato prefecture that Tokyo went
Yeah, that big guy that I forgot his
the
name.
rock dragon or whatever he was. I forget his name, but I think it was like Draken or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
someone like
yeah.
him, just some imposing like force, you know, and just
Yeah.
to see like, because we see that they do look like normal people, but you know, just when we see them actually like on Hiroshima Island, when we see them, you know, actually, you know, go, you know, on the shores of Japan, they're like, they got that kind of black aura around them, and you know, that's most likely them burning up Dataneki to be used as like a fighting like cloak, battle armor essentially, you know, and they're burning the Dataneki to strengthen them and to be, you know, so I can see that's why we haven't got a clear like actual view of them, like, you know, in perspective of like the in real time events of that moment, not like a flashback or anything, or just seeing them with a cloak. But I don't know. I do hope we see some kind. I do think we'll get like an exchanging of ideals. You know what I mean? Like who knows? I don't know. They could go several ways. I don't want to say like one rotten apple spoils the bunch, but you know, obviously some shit happened with Chihiro, or presumably Chihiro's mom, but I don't know. You think, how much of Shikoku you think we're going to get in the flashback?
I don't know. It's really tough to say how much Shikoku. There's so much to cover. There's so much to cover on our homeland, on the homeland. You know what I mean? Where there's so many different protagonists and everything like that. I would definitely think. I mean, Hokuzono is no, you know, stranger to introducing, you know, jobber-like characters that like, even if we get like cool designs that just appear every once in a while, just to give like the Shikoku people more than just like that dark silhouette. You know. I don't know. It really
It's
is
up in the air.
tough to say. Like you said, I mean, like Dice said, like the fact that like we found out there was a royal family involved and everything like that. I think we're bound to get, you know, something, and we know that there was a treaty signed. Maybe Shiba or somebody was present, you know, while that was happening. You know, something like that. You know, something simple. I don't think we'll get too much because there is a lot to cover, especially, I mean, you mentioned Chihiro's mom. I feel like that's also someone that needs to get introduced in this arc specifically. Like, most importantly, we need to know who that is.
Yeah, no facts.
Good point.
And, you know, like bringing up, like I said, the treaty could be where we get the, you know, they kind of come together. You know, they're like, all right, just hold that dude. I don't know where that dude Soga is, that dude with that crazy sword, but keep him away. But like that's where we could see that meeting of the, you know, higher ups. Like, you know, we know the Kabanabi came to be during the war. There was the counter sorcery army at first, and the Masumi went underneath the Kabanabi during the war. So like, I don't think we're gonna like see those exact moments per se, but I do want to see like who exactly was present for the treaty. You know, obviously we know Kaze and Ichiki was, but who was that guy that was standing next to them? Is it like the prime minister? Who was there for the Shikoku people to sign a treaty? Because we know that they overthrew the royal family. Did the royal family just kind of like make bad decisions on like the, you know, burning up the Datanseki resources, which caused them this whole turmoil? You know, maybe, you know, there's just a lot of things that they can go with that route. You know what I mean? But I do think you have a good point, Noop, about like the royal family, you know, seeing like some of their names, you know, at least, or getting something from them that kind of gives us something to kind of grab hold to.
I think I think weirdly enough, this is like kind of off the ball a little bit, but I think knowing like how much Naruto inspiration is into Kagurabachi as a whole, I really think that, like, you know, Akamura's curse, as Samura kind of prophesizes, will also kind of find out, you know, maybe that does have to do with the change in some way. We do see a baby in his, you know, when he kind of envisions like what that curse may or may not be. And I'm wondering if the reason that he gets this change is because, you know, let's say, for example, at some point in time, you know, maybe he knows Chihiro was born, so he couldn't have been locked up at least until after Chihiro was born. So maybe there's some kind of like, you know, Naruto moment where like baby Chihiro gets like, you know, kidnapped or almost gets killed in that, and that's when Akamura is like, nah, that's it, I'm done. And then in that moment, that's when Chihiro's mom also dies.
Well,
you know, that would go ahead.
My bad, bro. I was cutting you off.
No, not at all. Go ahead. I mean, I was just kind of, you know, rambling at that point. Kind of finished my point mostly.
You know, like that could have been, you know, maybe Soga wanted to trust that there was a different way. Maybe Soga let one of them go,
and then they broke the treaty afterwards somehow. Like that.
He let one of them go, and that very same person is what killed, you know, Kunishige's wife. And you know, then that might have been the thing to change, to motivate his like true realm to further his like synchronizing with the blade completely, and what's the backing force behind the malediction is the fact that he tried to like look in the good, and I mean, obviously I think that's like, I don't want to say taking the easy way out, but I think that's kind of like the thing that everyone's kind of like anticipating is, oh, it's gonna be another like the mom or the wife got the short end of the stick, and you know that kind of influences everything, all the events going forward, you know, like with Yura. But
it could go either way. I think it's interesting, at least in general, that like when Samura does bring up the quote unquote curse for Soga, like that's what he kind of like thinks back to. He's like, nah, I'm not cursed, but then literally like flashbacks to like baby Chihiro with like a bloodied like thing over him. And like I'm just curious like what that scene means to him. I'm curious if maybe maybe Chihiro was a twin, he didn't even know it, and there was another baby that died, or maybe Akamura had a child that died, and he's like, I'm not gonna let this happen to your baby, or I don't know. I think, like you said, it does sound kind of like an easy cop-out way, but like I am sometimes in full belief of like Occam's razor, especially when it comes to stories like that, right? Where like sometimes the simplest answer might actually just be generally the answer.
It could still be executed well, you know what I mean? Because there could be like
for sure
small nuanced like things that influence the overall reception of something like that. I do think that I do think like Soga has been presented as like a straightforward, person to begin with. He kind of has like no reason to lie to you because he has
Yeah.
like, who's gonna fucking tell him anything? You know what I mean?
What you see is what you get.
Yeah, but there was that big thing in JJK, who's gonna teach you about love or whatever that I forget the exact quote, but like that kept playing. I just hope it isn't one of those things. Like, let's just let it sit where it's at, and let's just let the story let the events tell us what, inform us.
I'm gonna need you to elaborate a little bit more on that.
I think you're talking about like the curse, right?
Yeah, like let the story tell us instead of like keep reminding us, who the one that's going to teach you about love is, and seeing that like quote, I don't want to keep seeing that like flashback of the baby. Just let the story happen, and
let's naturally find out rather than just keep like putting it in our faces like, are you interested? Hey, don't forget about this.
That'll never be good. And Poe, I got you, fam. I got you some Gouda cheese. I don't know, Dice. I guess like we talked a bit about like, I think we're all on the same page about we think it's kind of going to continue where chapter 113 left off. Like we're going to see Kunishige getting his bag. I guess, what I'm wondering is like what blade do you think was made first? If you have a theory. I know it's a random out of left field question. Because
I would think like something basic like Cloud Gouger maybe, but like I'm curious what Dice thinks.
Yeah, I don't know, because part of me has always thought that like Magatsumi to me has always been like either the first or the last one.
I think it has to be, right? Because of the eternal contract, it had to start with that one. They're all tied to him, I'm pretty sure.
I think they could, if there was a moment, because we know the war was like a standstill once the first 5 enchanted blades took to the battlefield. There could have been a moment of regathering, and that's when they like Kunishige called all the sword bearers to return back to base, so he could lock in the contracts and make one final push to basically win the war. And then that's when the Magatsumi makes its grand
debut.
Its rebuttal, its debut. Yeah, excuse me, I couldn't get the word out. But I
got you, man.
I think what was it? I think Uruha was like the second to last blade to get chosen, like for Kunishige.
I think it was the very last one.
Yeah,
I might be wrong.
Or yeah, excuse me, a very last. This isn't like I was thinking the pretenses of if the Magatsumi was last. But yeah, so
true.
And I think Ibiki was like before Uruha, because Natsuki, that was when Natsuki's flashback, we see him kind of talking about, oh, my brother just got chosen, I thought I was gonna get chosen. So I'm wondering, maybe it's just Subaru. Like we see Subaru and that's how we get his character introduction. He gets the first sword. He seems to be the oldest one out of the sword bearers.
Yeah,
he's old as hell.
Yeah, so I wonder if maybe it's him.
I can see that.
Yeah, second to last before the Magatsumi. And let's see, Angry Demon Noise said Magatsumi is probably first. Depends on other contracts. And yeah, like Noab and
but see, that's what we see is in terms of handing them out.
Yeah, that doesn't mean crafted.
Exactly.
Yeah, he could have been like, oh, I was working with a monster the first one. Let's go put that somewhere. He's like, he's like, let's make a bit more basic blade, and that's when
I'm going up too much with this one. Gotta calm this one down.
Yeah, cook too hard.
Yeah, well, that's why like I thought that the Magatsumi could have been first, really, because like he could have just barely like knew what he was doing, right? And so that's why it's so kind of like unstable and why it just kind of burns that dark power, because we really don't know that. Like, why is it that the Magatsumi has that ability to just constantly burn, that dark power?
I think that's Soga's doing there. That's what I personally think Soga's doing.
Yeah, I don't. Hey, that's not
just
crazy.
Speculation.
That's not crazy.
Yeah, it's just.
I think you're actually onto something there with that one, because like it makes me think like maybe if like let's say Magatsumi was the very first blade, like the base, not the prototype per se, but the very first official version of the enchanted blade. and that was basically designed off of the way that the Shikoku Islanders would be
Ooh.
you know, burning
Good
their
point.
own life force with the Dateneki crystals. And
Ooh.
then, you know, afterwards there was Kunishige figured out a way to kind of ex-nay that where it wasn't necessary. But obviously we see that the other enchanted blades are still capable of doing so, as like I think Chihiro describes it as like the ultimate arcana. So it's possible
Yeah.
that might be why the Magatsumi is so strong to begin with. Is it was the original blade, and it had that backlash, but that backlash ended up being, you know, it's the reason why it ended up being so fucking strong.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, that could very well be possible. Just, you know, seeing, you know, getting the, you know, firsthand usage of the Datanseki being used that way. You know, I guess to like the trade-off, and we see, you know, what the trade-off, you know, became to be. I could see the definitely Magasumi being first, but kind of withheld a bit. You know, I personally probably still reside with it still possibly being the last, but I think I'm 50-50 on it at this point. It could be a either way type of thing, but that's a good theory thought though.
I'm curious if, like, let's say, for example, because obviously we know, you know, his true realm played a big part in the Magatsumi's development. Like, what if its base was the life force, you know, draining of himself, and then once he went through that change or whatever, that ended up giving him the power to drain everyone else's life force. Like, he's like, all right, I no longer need to burn myself out. I can just use the people that I kill, and that was a result of the change because of how little he gave, you know, a crap about the Shikoku Islanders. He's like, no, I'm not gonna waste my life energy for you guys. You guys are gonna, you know, feed me type shit. Like, but again, at this point we're just speculating, but I think that is an interesting, like, you guys is really like I think Dice, you said it, that I think you were definitely onto something with that for sure.
Yeah, he was cooking. You know, that part of me though is I kind of almost would rather, like, though I think that there's a possibility that could be very well true, and the Magatsumi being first but shelved, and, you know, like, we'll use this in the worst case scenario. Let's see how these other 5 blades do first. You know, I kind of want to see, like, I want to kind of see the evolution of the Magatsumi though. Like, I think a preference thing where I do think that's very plausible, like y'all, you know, y'all's thinking on it. I kind of would like to see Soga being the one to change the Magatsumi into, like, you know, this crazy, like, you know, chaotic sword where, you know, we see it with its base abilities, and we see a true master swordsman, like, one, earn the title and showing just like what you could do with this, like, true realm. You know, it's malleable, and, you know, like, it's theoretically, like, whatever you could, you know, we see a whole bunch of different applications of the true realm extensions, but I like seeing how Soga's sword started to where it, like, to where it's, like, at now. I think that would be really interesting to then, like, start to view Chihiro in a lens of, like, all right, we do know where the Magasumi wasn't this crazy, you know, as, you know, Soga made it that crazy. And, you know, then seeing how Chihiro, like, develops going forward and his usage of Enten, I think would be really cool.
Yeah, I think there's, like, the opportunity to do some real crazy shit when it comes to the Magatsumi, because I think that's always been the question, like, is it more the Magatsumi or more Soga, right? And I think it's obviously, you know, and I say obviously because it has to be, like, somewhere in the middle. Like, I don't think it's going to be all Soga, where, like, Magatsumi was this kind of perfect blade with all good intentions, because we know that the Magatsumi was the one blade crafted with the intention of killing. And so I do think it's somewhere in the middle. And with this whole conceptual life to the Datanseki and the Enchanted blades, I think, like, Hokuzono has the chance to go, like, to some, I don't know, like, really, really dark places, but just kind of, like, do some really interesting stuff, similar to, like, what we saw with Sojo and Cloud Gouger, put to, like, a whole nother, like, much more twisted level. And I know that's, like, might be unlikely, but more of, like, a somewhat I don't know if symbiotic is like the right word, relationship between Soga and the Blade, and like him maybe like talking to the Blade, or like his thoughts having been kind of like compromised or consumed by the Blade. Again, I don't think it was all the Blade, because like Tiberius says, like I also would like to see, and I do think, and we have seen like Soga's, sense of justice and conviction and his beliefs. And I don't think that was all just the Magatsumi, but I just would like to see how that dynamic kind of differs from other blade wielders.
Yeah, like what's the
And I think it would,
percentage? Like 100%?
yeah,
How much of it is Soga to Magatsumi? My bad for cutting you off.
no, I just think it would be like very interesting to see something similar that to what we saw with Sojo, where it's like this very sick and like I said, like twisted like relationship and dynamic. And
That
it's not really supposed to be that way, but yeah.
that could be the thing that like Soga started off as like just a virtuous hero, essentially just killing bad guys, and we see like that Sojo was just shit to begin with. As Samura basically called him, like a bum with a blade, a bum that got his hands on the EB. But so like we know Soga's a sword master at like age 17 or 18 or whatever they say, right? And that's kind of like the thing that Chihiro was missing. So I want to see like almost this power really, it would be interesting to see him get tainted by like having that kind of power, like it's on his whims essentially, and he does wear that like old traditional style clothing, kind of like symbolizes like old world justice, or absolute absolute justice, and it's to his whims. So it's like the Soga, I don't know, it's like I kind of, I think Hokuzono has like it's a small line for him to kind of tiptoe when it comes to Soga in terms of how much characterization is he actually going to give him. Like, I don't know if y'all feel that way. I do kind of like him being more very straightforward, and you see is what you get. But no, I mean, how do you like look at Soga? I mean, is it characterization what you personally want to see from him? Or kind of how do you look at that?
I think just tuning into Soga and getting some level of characterization to see what he was like beforehand and see what exactly made him into who he was. I do like the overall idea somewhat of like the Blade potentially playing a part in it, or at the very least like somehow leading to like him becoming so deluded in a sense, or self-serving and self-righteous, where like it's kind of like symbiotic definitely was like the perfect word. And it's so funny you say that, because I think of like bully Tobey Maguire from like Spider-Man 3 type of stuff, where like it's just like it's not necessarily like making Akamura someone that he isn't, but more or less just like allowing him, like giving him more and more of a reason to just like not like listen to his conscience and just dive into his worst possible traits, like again, the type of thing.
The ultimate
yep
the intrusive thoughts, the enabler.
Exactly. He's like nah, like they're good, but like in the back of his head, like he's got like the sword, saying like nah, you should do it.
Green Goblin, like the mask in the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally,
he's just like in the mirror having conversations with himself, and like like I don't think I want it to be that level for sure, but I think
but I know what you
seeing
mean.
like I do like somewhat of like the Bleach influence too, right? With like the Zanpakuto idea of the Enchanted Blade, where like they can kind of connect with that blade, and the True Realm almost makes the blade an extension of themselves. The True Realm kind of takes the shape of whatever that person's, visualization of the ability is. So yeah, I do think it's kind of one of those things where it's like, is it the chicken or the egg? Who was the deranged maniac first? Was he always like had the capability of it, or did the sword make it worse? I would like the two swords. I would like it, if like the sword's will was Akamura's, if like the sword did gain a will of its own, but it's like but it's literally just Akamura, similar to like what is it? I hate bringing up Naruto so much, but like something like that, where like well, that's kind of a big spoiler. I don't really want to just say that out in the open, but like I feel like anyone who's read Naruto kind of knows what I'm talking about. Where like There's a character who's literally just an extension of someone else's will. And like, I would like it if the sword was that itself, like, you know, that like God, like, I don't know. Yeah, that's my answer.
Think like, you know, it's kind of hard to sit here and just like take this, you know, this flashback arc and try to really condense all our thoughts into like, you know, one conversation. What's good, CJ? What's good, damned one? Maldiction, them islands, I have voice. Facts. You know, but like, it's hard to sit here and kind of, you know, really wrap our, you know, our thoughts, because, you know, once we think of like one aspect, or at least I could say this is for me and maybe the same for y'all, where like I get one thought in my head and it kind of leads into other divergent theories or like, you know, expectations I have. And, you know, it's kind of hard, it's kind of easy to get lost in that like that, you know, mental, you know, gymnastics sometimes, because there is just so much we could touch on. And, you know, Hokuzono is going to tell us the story he wants to tell. You know, there's a lot of things I want to see, and I couldn't, maybe a tier, like doing a tier list one day of like, what aspects do we think are the most important? Like in terms of like, you know, what do we think is the most important things to cover? Not how like, you know, how much someone's going to participate in the flashback or if we think we'll see them, but more along the lines of what we think is the most important thing in the war arc, which is like, you know, the creation of like the EBs and Soga are probably the two like most important things, you know. But you know, it's a lot of theories and, you know, running around my head. Like Dice, I fella, you were about to say something.
No, but I did have this on my mind, and I have the panel pulled up, and I did kind of like want to ask you guys earlier. Just kind of going back to the Islanders, and we know that like most of the times we've seen him, it has been kind of like cloaked and burning, like we saw them pulling up to Japan. They were wielding the Datanseki, but in this chapter, we also see them kind of like shaded out, and the guy was talking about like them appearing to be humans but not like ordinary sorcerers. They weren't burning, if you notice, from in the most recent chapter. And I just kind of wanted to ask you guys, again, this is really just mostly speculation and we kind of already talked a bit about this, but I wanted to ask you guys, do you think there's any chance, considering especially that we also saw like what ordinary Shikoku civilians look like, that potentially like their fighters or like their sorcerers were just like something entirely different? Or do we think this is just like, again, the malleable you know, aspect of the Datanseki, and, you know, being able to do like use it in different ways?
I mean, I do think they had like talking about the like seeing the like the assassins we saw last chapter. You're talking about like
yeah, because they're not burning, you know.
Yeah,
they're not burning like you see them pulling up on the island.
I'm sure that they have like an army, you know, they probably have like an army that specifically is used to wielding, like, you know, knowing like how to properly use the Datanseki to its fullest usage. I'd imagine, you know.
Might have like warriors and stuff like that. Like, we don't really know much about like Shokoku society. Like, if they have a royal family, like they might be like, you know, they might have like a royal army. Like, we don't like it's interesting to know like were they like a complete society on their own right? Were they, you know, a part of something bigger and they split off, which is a whole nother interesting, you know, point in and of itself.
Maybe
but
they were
like
Sumerians at one point.
Oh god. Yeah, it's all Shonen Jump, the Shonen Jump multiverse.
You don't want it.
Yeah, no, I think like it's completely possible that they could, you know, it could be a warrior race, it could, like a race, like a warrior, like soldiers that are trained to use the Datanseki to their maximum level, or it's possible that just like they could just be like, as you said, like a different kind of species of people, and like they're just like in tune with the Datanseki on a level that humans never will be, and they're like even the women and children are like, you know, problems.
Yeah, like Alphobi here says, I think they were peaceful people protecting the Japanese from the Datanseki, because it said in this chapter they tried not to hurt the Japanese.
Yeah, I think that's another way to look at it for sure. We don't know right now, but that's definitely a perspective to have based off of the way that Shiba talks about it. It could be a protection. It could be because they're trying to keep it for themselves. It could be anything. The Daitenseki could be the reason they got fucked. And maybe they were transformed into whatever they are now, and they literally don't have a choice to be in this form and be in this life. And they, like I said, they separated from a bigger whole because they couldn't, the Daitenseki cursed them in some way, and they're trying to be like, guys, don't, please, no.
Yeah, he's like, once y'all get used to not blowing up, then y'all have to live underwater. It's like, well, shit.
Yeah.
Good point. No, yeah, that's.
It's like there's like that. It's like that. There's when they get rid of they have this big area. I don't know exactly where it is in the United States, but it's where they dump all the nuclear waste, and like they have like the entrance of it. It's literally like it's warning in like every single language possible, like known to man. And so like that way, God forbid, like if like a civilization ends and like people afterwards stumble upon it, it's like, guys, whatever where you fucking language, whatever language you speak or read, please go away. Don't fuck with this.
Yeah, don't do this.
And like that could be, it could be like you said, like kind of like how deep are we gonna get into like these war allegories, these weapons of mass destruction allegories, but like that could be something else. It could be like a warning. They're like, guys, you don't want to mess with this. You don't know what you're getting into.
This crack rock, you don't want no part of this shit.
Literally, you don't want no part of this shit.
You don't want no part of this shit. It makes you super strong and you feel great. You can breathe underwater. You don't want no part of this shit. And you're like, I think I do. They're like, no, you don't. It's like, it sounds enticing. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so I because we've talked about Flamebone, but I wanted to get like Noop's thoughts on Flamebone. Do you think, Noop, that like Flamebone, it could potentially be from Shikoku? It's been described as like the closest thing to the Enchanted Blades. Could it have been like, possibly like not the prototype, but like what Kunishige kind of looked to emulate, or the reason maybe the war was at a standstill? Like, do you think we're gonna see any of Flamebone in this flashback?
I think Flamebone is like interesting because like if it is equivalent of an Enchanted Blade, I'm definitely curious to see how the fuck it was made. Like maybe that was because we do get the theory that not the theory, they say it in this chapter, but we do get the confirmation that there are other veteran bladesmiths that are like working with the Daitenseki. So maybe like Flamebone was what they were able to do, or maybe that was like a copy. Someone was trying to make their own enchanted blade, or it could just be like you said, like an ancient artifact of Shokoku that like the Kaminabi just happened to get their hands on. I really don't. That is like probably the biggest wild card for sure. It could go either way because we could not get like any kind of history on Flamebone, and it could just be its own thing that like just exists. Like it's interesting. I think it's an interesting question to ask for sure, but
the Shikoku general that I know dearly, the one with the Daitenseki grills, he's wielding flame.
There you go,
bro. Low key, that would be tough because Noop, like to what you just said, if Flamebone, it's like if it's just not addressed, I would be so pissed, bro, because it has to be, considering like the way it's like.
You get yourself. It's JJK, bro. Remember the JJK experience.
No, bro. Like the whole thing about like it being used up to like the ribs or whatever, like the names of the abilities being like specific body
domain
parts.
Part 2. This is literally another skeleton structure we don't see.
Bro, I will die, bro. No. I don't think that's gonna happen.
What's good,
now you got me like,
what's good, cylinder?
Sweating.
Yeah, like, oh shit, hope not. Like flashbacks, you start getting PTSD.
Literally, man.
And Dice just so happens to have a little piece of Daitenseki in his closet.
But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to, or hopefully, I would like to see a Flamebone, because again, it's like yet another unanswered question that you could really see just like fading in the puzzle, right? Like,
yeah, that's the thing. There's so much potential for like, we've talked about a bunch of different, character dynamics, relationships that we could see get flushed out more, or we could just leave them at like just as is. Like we might not see Azami at all this arc, which I think that's unlikely. But we just don't know what Hokuno has in store. You know, if he jumps just like to the creation of the blades next chapter, and I do think next chapter is going to kind of give us a bit more like idea of how fast do we think does like Hokuzono plan to like kind of go through this. Not saying that that's the end all be all, but you know, if we kind of cut to like all the blades being created, he's starting to like choose who gets them. That's going to tell us something. What's up, Beatrice?
Hey, Beatrice.
You know, the Hishaku, that's the one person that I think if we see anybody from the Hishaku, that's the one that we see.
Yeah, for sure. I think he might have
him?
something to do with Shikoku. Without a doubt, I think he might be. You know, I think he's got to be important in some way, especially because he's basically the only Hishaku member that like wasn't a part of the Kamunabi, and he looks so weird to begin with. I think. I think I'm just being honest. And and yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if like he was like a member of like the like what maybe he is one of the characters from, you know, the one character we'll get from Shokoku. To be honest with you, you know, maybe he is.
That's a running, you know, that's one thing. What's good, Mike up? Did you guys see the routes around the island and think about Hishaku right away? Man, it came across my mind. Yeah, I feel like he's got to be the Hishaku. We see something from the war, if any. But you know, it's like, has he maybe like, did he kind of enable Yura to go on this journey because he has his own plans for trying to wield the Magatsumi, or does he have some kind of connection to Soga? That, you know, like, I feel
Blade had a theory of like him potentially being from the island. And, like,
Karasu is attached to Soga. Yeah, I don't like
yeah
cook on his theory, but you know, like there is definitely like he's like the interest, like the one that interests me the most, you know. Because I mean, think about it, everyone took a part of either the hotel or Kabanabi HQ. He was on the sidelines, like calling out plays.
Yeah, we know nothing about that guy, and like everything about that guy just screams mystery, right? Like the Hishaku logo on the left hand, the eye. There's that place where Sojo met with both him and Yura that we just literally know nothing about. Like it looks like a whole nother dimension, and it's just completely unexplained. So
and then next time we see their hideout, it's just like some little rinky dink ass looking warehouse type thing. Samura just pops in that bitch. Yeah, like he's the one, man, that's like got me, you know, wondering what's his deal. You know, the first villain, the first Hishaku member that we see in the entire story, and you know, obviously I was by design, of course, but that has to mean something.
Something, right?
part of me though wonders, like, if, like, because we know Soga kind of looked through some of Soga's Yura's memories, and I almost feel like, and this doesn't necessarily have to mean anything, but I almost would think that he would have kind of put there a bit like maybe a small panel of him questioning, like, oh, even he's there, like referring to Hishaku, like kind of, you know, wondering what that means. But you know, that could also be Hokuzono keeping his cards close to his chest type of thing.
Yeah, maybe Samura like would have recognized him. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
You know, so like Shiba hasn't seen Hishaku yet though. You know, and maybe Shiba might be the one to be like, yo, I know that dude.
It's a good point. And that could be where like we get like the different perspectives and everything like that.
It's that dude with the butthole eye. I remember him. And then, you know, we find out his backstory like that.
Plot twist, it was Shiba who did that to his eye. I mean,
Shiba made all the connections, bro. He brought the crack rock to Kunishige. He brought his homie to meet Kunishige.
You've talked about like potential parallels between them two in terms of like, you know, Yura being his Chihiro, you know, like him being like Yura's Shiba, or however you want to call it, the enabler. So
feed information to him to like gain this like crazy strong elite, you know, sorcery group around him. Like he basically put all the pieces in play, and maybe Yura like sympathizing and like agreeing to Soga's use of the malediction might have threw a wrench in his plan. You know, maybe now he has to recalibrate his own. I just hope. I mean, I don't really like Hishaku. Fuck him, but I just hope he is not like a. I just hope he's not Zetsu. Let's talking about a Naruto reference. I do not want a Zetsu thing happening here.
I was literally just saying, what if he's like a big traitor just waiting for the end? He's just like using everything for his own gain.
Little tree boy. Yeah, I mean, he has some crazy ass sorcery too, by the way. Like, you saw, like, it was doing damage to the Kabunabi headquarters.
I mean, you can make the argument that like the whole sorcery has basically almost carried the Hishaku and like in most of their operations, really, because they use it for everything.
Yeah, I mean, and he can hand out. He's putting. he's giving other men his seed and putting it inside of them. He's like, let me stop. But no, but we also see him like with the best genius. He just throws that like little chicken nugget, little in a root wall comes out. We see Yura using the Rakuzaichi. The dude's got like remote activation. Akinator, who do we think has the best design in Bachi? It's easy. It's Ibiki Misaka. Guys, what do y'all think?
Wait, what?
Best design in Bachi.
Oh, okay.
Someone has to chat, yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to say Akamura because it sounds like a cop out. I would say probably either Yura or Hirohiko.
Cool. Dice.
Yeah, I mean, shit, I'm a big fan of those.
You can say Natsuki. If you say Natsuki, we fight.
No,
bro.
I
like
thought
Miyuki's
about
design
it.
too. She's fun. I'll come down there, bro.
I don't know, man. I think Yura, just a simple suit and like the the markings on his face, the piercings.
Ooh, Dice is edgy. He has a tight. Like Mike up says, Yuki's design. I do like her design. Her design's really good, strong.
When she pulled up, it's like the full body shot.
Samura for sure. That dude's just like, look at him. He said, I'm contractually obligated to mention Bingo. I would change your profile picture then, because I got to do that. My work looks just like Bingo, and he's a fuckboy.
Oh, man.
Yura will be king. What are your thoughts about that line? Man, no Hokuto mentioned. Hokuto's design is like, the dude's a
Oh, that's, yeah, Hokuto's
oh, true. Hokuto is, yeah, good design for sure.
Dude, that dude, man. I really like Hokuto's character, and that dude's just really like, he's just a demon. He just want to fight. But
hey, don't be surprised if we see him in the like. I think him from the Hishaku. I think him and Hatshaku are the only ones who like were even like old enough to potentially see like during the war. I think
Uran might be old, and she just looks young. I do think because she's kind of like she kind of talks down to you, not talks down, but she kind of like almost like the, I don't know, like, kind of talking to him like he's a child, when they're in the waiting room.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess like before we wrap up here, Don was asking, what do we make, or what are our thoughts on Yura? Yuki Sada saying Yura will be king. Do y'all think that's gonna pay any dividends going forward, or do y'all think? What do you think the status of Yura in the story is gonna look like going forward? Like once we get back to present time.
I would say when it comes down to it, I think maybe like they weren't expecting Yura to have his body, probably sapped. I mean, Yura's main goal was to take the Magatsumi, kill the Sword Saint, and rule himself, and then the Sword Saint ended up just like taking up his own body because Yura was about to lose the fight.
He's like, that's an extra step, homie. Let's just cut you're the middleman. We cutting it out.
Exactly. So like I'm interested to see, like, in general, just like I mean, obviously this is not to do with like the flashback, but I'm interested to see how the Hishaku even handle dealing with like Akamura. Like, are they gonna become quote unquote technically like a new part of like the new Kamunabi? Like, are they gonna work under Akamura still just because he's still using Yora's body? I mean, Soga kind of be like, oh, I'll deal with you guys later. Like at the end of part 1, he doesn't really say too much, and they all do seem kind of weirded out that it's that he's using Yora's body for this. So it's also curious to know, like, maybe they'll feel different. Maybe we may want to get Yora back. If some of them really are just like, gung ho on Yora as a whole, like that one kid, and that's the only reason they're in the Hishaku in the first place. Maybe that's like the kind of like the two girls from Jujutsu Kaisen Shibuya, right? Where they're like, nah, like
Mimiko and Naniko.
Geto back. Yeah, like give us the main body back. Like we're not cool with this. I do have to go. So I have to dip right after this.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's kind of where my head is at when it comes to like Yora. Like I don't know. Like I think the whole King thing, I think it definitely means like they definitely weren't expecting things to go the way that they did. So I think maybe that might have to do with it, but it could be more. Maybe there's more to like I said, Hatshaku's plan or the Hishaku's plan in general that we just don't know yet. But we'll just have to wait and see. But guys, I'm sorry to dip weirdly like
good.
that.
No, appreciate you coming on, bro.
No, thank you guys so much for having me, and I will. I'm willing to come back anytime. You guys are great people, and you do a great show here.
Nice.
Thanks,
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
All right, guys, be good. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, and to kind of like, I guess, also respond to that myself. As Noah mentioned, like if we do see like the partial, some of the Hishaku becoming the new Kabunabi. Obviously Kaguri, because he wants to wield the blade, but like people like Yuki Sada, I can't really see Yuki Sada like being cool with the way like the new status quo of things. I do wonder kind of like Hirohiko, how he feels about it, because he just really like cares about Chihiro, like, so I wonder, like, I think Hirohiko could be like a wild card, and I don't know. I don't really think I don't know how likely it is Chihiro's going to want to like team up with them. I guess it just depends on how dangerous or like how impossible he thinks it is to deal with Soga himself. If he actually needs the extra hands, if he's willing to like work with them. Low budget Wakanda. Hey, that good point. I guess before we kind of wrap up, Dice, you have any extra thoughts on that? I got one more question for you, but any last thoughts on that? Hishaku stuff.
I don't think, I don't think in terms of like Yura will be king. I don't think we're gonna see that, ever, or at least like anytime soon. I do, this whole conversation in terms of like the Hishaku, how they feel about Soga taking Yura's body. We do know that like 2 days have passed, I believe, right? Since like that's when we saw Chihiro again, he said 2 days had passed, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Tiberius. Was it 4 days, right? 2 days?
You're talking about like at the end of part 1?
Yes, at the end of part 1.
Yeah,
was it 2 days or 4 days?
4.
4 days. Okay, so like it's interesting to think about if Yura has his body back or not, because Soga did address the fact that he had to take care of the body, and so obviously we have no idea what that means, but I wouldn't be surprised if next time we jump back to present day, like Yura does have his body back, and it's like a complete 180 in terms of like the last time we saw Yura. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a split of the Hishaku and see Chihiro potentially work with some of them. But there obviously does have to be like a lot of supplemental writing for that, considering that this is the group that killed his father. But at the same time, a lot has changed. There's like a whole lot of perspectives in this whole thing. I wouldn't be even surprised to see Yura and Chihiro side like at some point if it is against Soga. If Yura does realize that like that wasn't the hero he was looking for, that wouldn't be something crazy. I don't think to see. But yeah, I think we're gonna see some merging of the Hishaku and the Kamunabi, and it's only natural that like some people are gonna fall through. So I don't think we're gonna see like all of the Hishaku. But we still don't really even know a lot of these characters anyway. So we'll see. I think guys like Kaguri are gonna stick around, but I wouldn't be surprised if like Yuki Sada is like leaves, like you said.
So it shows us how to kill someone who's immortal.
Yeah. Like guys like Hokuto, Urang, Hatshaku, Kaguri, I think those guys will definitely be operating under Soga. Like you said, Hirohiko's a wild card. Yuki Sada, I could definitely see just like saying, fuck this, man. We'll see. It's definitely interesting.
And I guess, last question I want to ask you, and I believe, if I remember correctly, you were on board with saying we're going to start from where we left off. I guess from this, if we do start from where we left off, and let's just say there's not like a jump, an advancement of time to, like say all the blades are done. How, I guess, do you think, how much time do you think we're going to see Kunishige craft? Like, I mean, obviously these are all speculations. Do you, because we know the creation of the enchant blades and Soga are like the two, I think, like the two big things in this flashback, to see like play out. I mean, what's your gut telling you? Like, how long do you think we're going to sit on this like forging part of the of Kunishige's flashback, or the flashback with Kunishige? Excuse me.
The forging specifically, I think no more than like a chapter or two, really. Again, like it all depends kind of like where the Magatsumi fits into this. If like we could like kind of see like a chapter of forging and then a couple of chapters past of the war, and then he goes back and if he forged Magatsumi last, then we could see that again. But in terms of like one straight stretch of like all blades being forged, I think I could see that wrap like even in a chapter, maybe at most two. Again, it all kind of depends on how much of Dataseki we're going to explore, and potentially the conceptual life stuff, because we still don't really know what that process looked like for Kunishige. We know he has the Rokuhira eyes that allowed him to like see the properties in Dataseki in order to be able to stabilize them. But was there something more to that? Like we've theorized and like we've talked about like things like what we saw between him and the fish. We don't know if it was just him like on some, weird shit. But like if that is any like key or like sort of hint on what it looked like, him forging the blades. I'm not saying he was necessarily talking to himself, but like realizing and was aware of the
personifying
life.
that experience or something like we see from him.
Yeah, like him like actually seeing the life within Datsenseki, right? We've seen like whole beings of spirit energy, right? Like could that sort of stuff like manifested itself when he was kind of like working on the enchanted blades? Like it's very interesting to think about like what that whole thing looked like. But yeah, I could see that, to answer your question, covered in a chapter or two, really.
Yeah, I think so too, where we know that there isn't like, they can't get their hands on a ton of raw material. So I'm almost interested to see if like there's a point where he tells them, I need more. Like I can't create the amount of swords that you're asking for with what I have. I wonder if that's gonna play a part into it. Angry Demon Noises says Yukisada they have to use since he's a new vessel. That's a good point. But like I said, unless it's Yura giving him the actions, or giving him like telling him what to do, excuse me. Damn, I'm tongue-tied tonight. Unless it's Yura telling him what the fuck to do, I don't think Yukisada's really gonna respect Soga doing it, especially if he's the one hijacking his body to do that. But what you're saying is also true. I could see Yukisada almost becoming a prisoner, to the new Kabunabi because he is the vessel. So that's, that would be really cool to see play out. It's called spirit energy, so it might be literal Datanseki being solidified spirit energy. Yeah, like, I did have this theory from last, and talked about this, and we'll wrap it up after. But remember the kind of theory I said that, what if Kunishige has like an innate sorcery that allows him to, and I kind of described as seeing the color of souls, and I mean, that was fresh in my brain because there's like something Modulo about that. But that's like the easiest way to convey, the whole sentiment behind it. Him seeing the like this, potential, life, in these swords technically, and we see that also with him with the fish, and maybe that's how he chose these blade wielders, is because he chose the ones that most likely that most closely resemble to what he saw in the sword, the color of the sword, and he tries to match the color of person, their soul with that. I mean, I don't know how likely that is. I mean, there's still a lot we don't know about sorcery, and I don't think Hokuzono is going to go too deep into, like, you know, the varied extent of sorcery. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, but it's not crazy at all. I don't think, like, especially the way you frame it, I don't think that's crazy at all. It isn't even too far from how it's already been stated, you know, in terms of him like seeing the properties.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, with the whole life stuff, what you're saying makes
You're
perfect
meant
sense.
to wield this blade, as he tells Uruha.
Yeah.
You know, like, why?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah.
But I guess we'll call it here. I do agree with you though that there's not going to be a whole lot of time, because there's not much really they could show us in terms of like crafting a sword. You know what I mean? It's not really about that. It's more along the lines of seeing his like headspace of, you know, maybe the first one's a challenge, and maybe that's why the Magatsumi is the first sword, because he took it as a challenge, whereas the others were more so with a sense of duty to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Master Cylinder 42 like brings up a great point. Kunishige was definitely talking to the EBs like Chihiro was talking to Kuragumo. That's a very good point. Like, we haven't really seen a lot of like Chihiro's perspective on that. Like, again, he does say that like he's aware of like the enchanted blades having a sort of conceptual life. We have seen him kind of like talking to the blade like that. Like, he did kind of look after them, and so yeah, it wouldn't be kind of too crazy at all to see Kunishige, to see that on like a whole much deeper level, right? Like what we didn't exactly see from Chihiro, or more like see more of that, right? Like more from what we saw of him with Cloud Gouger, but in terms of like him actually forging the blades,
Yeah.
and with Magatsumi, that whole kind of interaction, it would be interesting to see if it was completely different. And it kind of like the reason Kunishige always felt a certain way when the Magatsumi was brought up, it wasn't just because of what Soga did, but like he
Ooh.
always knew that something was up with that blade.
Yeah, like as he's crafting, it's like he can't really like fully grasp his like mind around
Yeah,
how deep that abyss is. It's like where the rest of them,
yeah,
he could kind of get the like, you know, he
and
can
understand them.
understand
Yeah.
them. Mm-hmm.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, we know that the dark power is something that, like, compared to the true realm, where like
even
Kunishige
he
understood that it
could.
was a malleable.
Yeah,
Yeah, he couldn't the dark power, right? And we know that the Magatsumi, all it does is channel that dark power. So like you could be right on the money in terms of like the Magatsumi was really the one blade that was just out of his like, you know, mindset, like out of his grasp. He couldn't really understand
yeah.
it.
It's like it can't be reasoned with type of thing. And
Yeah.
Soga is being the strongest sense of justice that he knows, most likely. It would make sense why he would, like, he's the only person that could have a chance. He's like, you know, yeah, sure, he's young, but he's a master swordsman. And we know that he is so sure of himself. He's not like, you know, like even seeing him and Samura's reaction, he talks pretty like casually with Samura, you know, and who's his senior and all that. And we know how like those types of, you know, dynamics can be. So like it makes sense Soga being like this, you know, generational swordsman, and sense of self being the one to try and like rein that in. But you know, he's like the Lich King, some shit. You know, like,
Yeah.
but no,
Yeah.
that'll do it. It was a good stream. Yeah, Master Cylinder, you know, he talks about
Master Cylinder's cooking.
yeah, he's been cooking.
Cooking.
Appreciate everyone stopping by. We're just getting back into the swing of these streams, these theory streams. We're gonna try to do them, I'll say most weeks. We just, you know, we kind of like take them, you know, depending on how our week looks. But leave your theories in the comment section. I appreciate everyone that came for the live stream. I'm gonna leave the VOD up. And Dice, you have anything you want to say?
No, I appreciate everybody pulling up. Master
And,
Cylinder, Word of D,
yo,
Angry Demon Noises, Beatrice.
sub to the channel. What's good, Arspheria? Bingle. What's good?
Hey, shout out Bengal.
Yeah, we close to
just getting out of
500.
here, but
Yeah, we wrapping this up, Papa. But
appreciate you pulling up though.
and like I said in the podcast, or was it the Enchanted Blade stream? Get your mama's phone, get your daddy's phone, your aunt, uncle, everyone got YouTube. You know what I mean? So, it's all good. We'll definitely stream maybe next week. Hopefully, we'll try and do these more often. But y'all have a good night. Be cool. looking forward to this chapter. Dice, thanks for thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
All right, now.
Appreciate you, brother.
Peace.